The laughter was too loud, too careless, too familiar. When I walked into that rooftop bar, I wasn't supposed to feel like an intruder. It was Friday night, the city humming with neon and heat, but all I could focus on was the sound of his laughter. Deep, unguarded, and laced with the kind of ease that used to belong to me. Ethan was sitting at the far end of the terrace, surrounded by his coworkers. I'd come to surprise him after his team dinner. Something spontaneous, something loving. I'd even changed my dress twice before leaving the apartment. I told myself it was just to look nice, not because I'd started to feel like he'd stopped noticing. But the moment I saw him leaning in, whispering something into her ear, her, with the long dark hair and the red nails that looked like they'd been painted for a night meant to be remembered, I knew the surprise wasn't mine anymore. She threw her head back and laughed, that effortless, open-mouthed kind of laugh that sounded almost intimate. Her hand brushed his arm as if it belonged there. He didn't pull away. For a second I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just tired from work or sensitive because we'd been distant lately. But then Ethan's hand lingered, just a fraction too long, on the small of her back. Something cold uncoiled in my chest. I stood there, my fingers tightening around the strap of my purse, my throat thick. The night smelled like burnt lime and city smoke. A waiter passed by with a tray of champagne glasses, and I almost asked him to drop the whole thing, just so something, anything, would break the silence roaring inside my head. Instead, I turned around and left before Ethan could see me. I didn't sleep that night. The apartment felt smaller than usual, like the walls had leaned closer to listen to me breathe. Ethan came home past midnight. He smelled like her perfume, expensive and sharp, the kind that clings to colors and memories. "Hey," he said softly, like nothing was wrong. "You're still up?" I didn't answer. I just stared at him. The dim light from the hallway painted half his face in shadow, and for a moment, I hated how familiar it still felt. "How was dinner?" asked finally. My voice didn't sound like mine. "It was fine." He shrugged off his jacket. "Just work stuff. Long day." I studied his face, every flicker of expression. He didn't look guilty, just tired. That was always the thing about Ethan. He could lie without changing tone. Not because he was heartless, but because he genuinely believed his lies were small enough not to count. I forced a smile. "You didn't tell me Sophia was joining." His eyes flickered. "Barely." "Oh yeah, last minute. She got invited since she's helping with the project." Sophia. I knew her name, of course. She was the new project manager, sharp, ambitious, and unervingly charming. Ethan had mentioned her in passing for weeks. Always in neutral tones, the way you talk about someone you respect professionally, but never the way he talked about her tonight. "Right," I said quietly. "Helping with the project." He looked at me, a faint crease forming between his brows. "You sound weird. What's going on?" "Nothing." I walked past him toward the kitchen. "Just tired." The next morning, he kissed me on the forehead before leaving for work. Felt automatic. Like brushing your teeth or checking the weather app, something you do because it's routine. When the door clicked shut, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my coffee until it went cold. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself every couple goes through quiet seasons. But deep down something had already broken. It started small, the way he started turning his phone face down when he set it on the table. The way his laughter became quieter when he texted. The way he started saying he'd grab drinks after work, more often than he said, "See you at home." One night I decided to call him around 9 p.m. It rang 3 times before he picked up. "Hey," he said. His voice was loud, echoing with background chatter. "Where are you?" I asked. "Just out with the team," he said quickly. "Sophia's leaving soon, so we're celebrating." There it was again. Name. Sophia. Always with a reason. Always with a casual shrug. I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I heard her laugh faintly through the phone. The same laugh from the rooftop bar. Something inside me snapped. Quietly, invisibly, but with precision. Like a thread cut clean. A week later, I found the first real evidence. It wasn't a message or a lipstick stain. It was a joke. We were sitting on the couch watching a comedy show. The host made a comment about office romances, and Ethan laughed. Too quickly, too comfortably. "God," he said, "you have no idea how accurate that is." I turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, office romances." He grinned, not even noticing my tone. "You know, like Sophia. She's always teasing me about being married young. Says I'm wasting my prime years." Froze. "And what do you say?" He smirked, a playful glint in his eyes. "I tell her she's jealous." I felt my pulse in my throat. "Jealous of what?" He laughed. "Relax, babe. It's just a joke." Something in me went cold. The way he said it, dismissive, almost practiced, was worse than if he'd yelled. I smiled tightly. "Yeah, just a joke." But the words stayed with me. Long after the credits rolled. Long after he fell asleep. Long after I sat awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every glance, every excuse, every half-truth he'd told. The next day I went to his office. Not because I wanted to confront anyone. I told myself I just wanted to surprise him with lunch, like we used to do when things were easy. When laughter wasn't suspicious and affection wasn't a calculation. The receptionist smiled politely as I walked in, holding a takeout bag. "Hi, can I help you?" "I'm here for Ethan Harper," I said. She checked something on her screen, then looked up. "Oh, he's out right now. Said he'd be back in an hour. But Sophia's here if you want to leave something with her." My grip on the bag tightened. "Sophia's here." The receptionist nodded. "Yes, she's in the conference room." I don't know what possessed me to look through the glass window, but I did. And what I saw wasn't dramatic. It wasn't kissing or touching, it was worse. They were sitting close. Too close. Their heads bent together over a laptop. Ethan was smiling, that small, unguarded smile he used to reserve for me when I said something that made him proud. Sophia laughed softly and touched his wrist in that effortless, unconscious way people do when they know they can. I didn't go in. I didn't knock. I just stood there long enough for the receptionist to glance at me uncomfortably. Then I walked out. That night I said nothing. I made dinner, smiled, and listened to him talk about his crazy day. He said Sophia had presented brilliantly, that she really knew how to take charge in a room. I asked him if he'd ever had a crush on someone at work. He laughed. "God, you're overthinking again." "Am I?" "Yeah," he said, grinning. "You're cute when you're jealous." And then he kissed my forehead. It was that kiss, the easy, dismissive one, that broke me completely. Because in that moment, I realized he thought I'd never actually do anything. He thought I'd just keep waiting, keep pretending, keep swallowing my doubts with polite smiles and soft silences. He didn't know I'd already seen enough. He didn't know I was done being the joke. That weekend I planned my line, what I would say when it finally came out. I rehearsed it in my head 100 times, until it stopped feeling like a confession and started feeling like a performance. She said, "Relax, it's just a joke." I whispered to myself in the mirror. And I said, "So is what you have with your coworker." The words felt sharp, cold, perfect. I just needed the right moment. And when it came, it would be the last time he ever underestimated me. Sunday morning came quietly. Ethan was in the kitchen making pancakes, humming under his breath like it was just another ordinary day. I watched him from the doorway, feeling like I was standing at the edge of something fragile and final. He looked up and smiled. "You're up early." "I couldn't sleep," I said softly. He flipped a pancake and gestured at the counter. "Coffee's ready. Big day ahead. Sophia and I need to finalize the pitch before Monday." There it was again. Her name, rolling off his tongue like it belonged in our mornings. I sat down slowly, the sound of the sizzling pan filling the silence. "You spend a lot of time with her." He glanced over, eyebrows raised. "Yeah, well, we're on a tight deadline." "Why?" "I was just wondering," I said. "Do you ever talk about me?" He laughed lightly, brushing it off. Of course. She knows I'm married to a woman who can't stand early mornings and hates burnt toast. I smiled faintly, even though something inside me was breaking all over again. And what does she say about that? I shrug. She jokes that I should trade you in for a model who wakes up smiling. I stared at him. He didn't even realize how cruel that sounded. Relax, he said when he noticed my expression. It's just a joke. The room tilted slightly, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I took a slow breath. Right, I whispered. Just a joke. He left after breakfast, humming again, phone in hand, texting someone before he even reached the elevator. The moment the door closed, I went to his study. I told myself I wasn't looking for proof. I already knew. I just needed clarity. Kind of closure. His laptop was open, password saved. I scrolled through his emails first. Work, meetings, spreadsheets, until I saw the folder labeled drafts. It wasn't work drafts. It was messages, unsent ones, half written, half deleted. The kind of things people write when they want to say something but don't have the courage to. One read. You make me feel alive again, but I can't keep doing this. She doesn't deserve it. You don't deserve to hide. Another said. I can't stop thinking about that night after the conference. The way you looked at me when. He'd stopped typing there. I stared at the blinking cursor for a long time, feeling my stomach twist. My hands shook as I closed the laptop, the air around me thick and sour. That was it. The confirmation I didn't want but had been expecting all along. That night I set the table like I always did. 2 plates, 2 glasses. The candle in the middle that he always said made the apartment feel like a home. When he walked in, he looked surprised. Wow, what's all this? Dinner, I said simply. I wanted to celebrate something. He smiled, loosening his tie. What are we celebrating? The truth, I said. He frowned, half smiling, thinking it was another one of my jokes. Okay, what truth? I looked at him, really looked. The man I'd loved for 7 years. The man I'd shared everything with. The man who had slowly started treating my heart like background noise. The truth, I said quietly, that you and Sophia stopped pretending a long time ago. He froze. What are you talking about? I saw the emails, Ethan. My voice didn't tremble, though my body did. The ones you never sent. His face changed. Not shock. Not fear. Just a resignation. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Those were nothing, he said after a pause. They were just words. Words. I repeated. You said she makes you feel alive. That you can't keep hiding. He rubbed his face. God, why did you have to look through my stuff? I laughed softly, a bitter, fragile sound. Because you stopped letting me look at you. He didn't say anything. Just stared at me, guilt flickering behind his eyes. So, yes, was it worth it? Throwing us away for someone who laughs at your married life. He exhaled. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He hesitated, then said quietly. It just happened. We connected. I didn't mean for it to. I nodded slowly. People always say that, don't they? Like falling out of love is an accident. Like betrayal just happens. He stepped forward. I'm sorry. I swear it didn't mean. Cut him off. Don't. Please don't insult me with half apologies. He looked desperate now. Lena, it was just a moment. It didn't mean anything. I smiled, tears burning behind my eyes. You keep saying that. That everything's just something. Just a joke. Just a drink. Just a moment. But you know what, Ethan? He looked up, startled. I leaned closer, voice shaking but steady. She said, relax, it's just a joke. And I said, so is what you have with your coworker. The silence that followed was absolute. He blinked, as if he didn't quite understand. What do you mean? I mean, I told her, I said. Yesterday. I went to your office after you left. She was there. I told her I knew. That you'd both been a joke for a long time. His mouth fell open. You what? She looked terrified, I said softly. Not guilty. Terrified. Because you told her you'd leave me, didn't you? He swallowed hard. Yeah, I whispered. That's what I thought. For a long time neither of us spoke. The candle burned low between us, wax dripping down the side like tears we didn't shed. Finally he said, I made a mistake. You made a choice, I corrected. He ran a hand through his hair, voice breaking. I didn't want to lose you. I laughed quietly. You already did. I stood up, grabbed my purse and walked toward the door. My legs felt like air, my chest hollow. Lena, please, he said, following me. We can fix this. I turned to him, my hand on the doorknob. You can't fix something that stopped existing the moment you started pretending. He stepped closer, his voice soft. I love you. For a moment I almost believed him. Almost. But love isn't what you say when you're caught. It's what you protect when no one's watching. So I looked him in the eye and said quietly, then you should have chosen me when it still mattered. And I walked out. Outside, the night air hit me like a wave, cold and clean. I stood there on the street, the city lights flickering like 1,000 tiny lies, and for the first time in months, I felt something that almost resembled peace. Not because it didn't hurt. It burned. But because I finally knew the truth wasn't something to be afraid of anymore. The truth was the only thing left that was still mine. Weeks passed. I moved into a small apartment across town. The first night alone was strange. Quiet in a way that felt both terrifying and sacred. Ethan called a few times. Texted. Then stopped. Sophia left the company a month later. I didn't care enough to ask why. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about the mornings we used to have. The soft laughter, the burnt pancakes, the easy rhythm of love before it cracked. But then I'd remember that not all endings are tragedies. Some are just truths finally spoken aloud. And mine started the moment I stopped waiting for him to take me seriously. The moment I stopped being the punchline in someone else's story.